Well, it was a fun one Monday night, a not so fun one Tuesday night for the Philadelphia Phillies after that 13-7 series opening victory over the Chicago Cubs at home in Citizens Bank Park in South Philadelphia on Monday night. The Phillies dropped pretty much, you could say, a blowout of their own, but on the wrong side of it. This time the Cubs enforcing it onto the Phillies. They beat the Phillies 10-4 last night on Tuesday to even up that series 1-1 heading into tonight's series finale here against the Chicago Cubs. 6:40 p.m. first pitch, South Philadelphia, Citizens Bank Park series finale. Jesus Luzardo on the mound. Pretty good pitching matchup overall. Jesus Luzardo goes up against Shota Imanaga of the Chicago Cubs. So it could be a pitcher's duel for this rubber match to see who ultimately wins this 3-game series. After that, the Phillies are off tomorrow before they start a 3-game home series over the weekend on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday against the division rival NL East Atlanta Braves. And then they actually head out to Chicago to play the Cubs right after that again. So a lot of baseball obviously going on. As we all know, that's how the MLB season works. Some quick news as well before we get into today's topics. We talked about Seth Johnson being brought up after Jonathan Bolin was placed on the 15-day IL. Seth Johnson was brought up, and we saw him pitch that very next day or the day of, whatever it was, but he pitched Monday against the Cubs in that blowout. Good thing they had the lead because after his first inning of work, he did get into some trouble in his second inning of work. After that game, I believe just the day after, yesterday on Tuesday, he pitched Monday, I think the day after on Tuesday, not directly after the game, but pretty much after the game. You guys know the gist of it. Seth Johnson optioned back to AAA Lehigh Valley, and in a corresponding move, they called up Chase Sugart. He had been acquired by the Phillies this offseason, I believe in an offseason trade with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So he didn't ultimately make the opening day roster. He was one of those guys battling for one of those final bullpen spots. Chase Sugart, he is now up. We actually saw him pitch last night in that 10-4 loss to the Chicago Cubs. Looked all right, Sugart did. He did allow some base runners, but he did pitch a scoreless 7th inning for the Phillies. So maybe that's something the Phillies got going for them if he sticks around for a little bit here, or maybe not. Who knows? Anyway, also some notable news coming out from yesterday. Zach Wheeler, one of the Phillies' ace, the veteran of the staff, or one of the veterans of the staff. Zach Wheeler is making progress in his rehab and his return back from thoracic outlet syndrome. He made his 4th rehab start yesterday in AA with the Reading Fight and Phils. He pitched 5 2/3 innings with 9 strikeouts in those 5 2/3 innings. He reached 72 pitches at AA with Reading. Now, he did say after the game that he is planning on starting another game with Reading in AA on Sunday. That will be his 5th rehab start. And then after that, Zach Wheeler, as long as that start goes well and he feels good, I'm pretty sure 5 rehab starts, that's kind of the timeline the Phillies had for him, coming back by the end of April. We'll see what comes out of it, but Zach Wheeler could be returning probably after that start, as if everything goes well for him. Hopefully it does. Let's knock on wood for Zach Wheeler. Bang, bang. Welcome to Phillies Daily, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Kennelly. Make sure you guys subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily. It's much appreciated. Make sure you guys are commenting, engaging with every episode here on the channel. That's what makes us a community and so much better here as Phillies fans. Also, check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Phillies Daily is available on both platforms for you to search up and find and follow along there as well. Make sure you guys are leaving us reviews. Much appreciated there as well. Getting into the 10-4 loss last night to the Chicago Cubs, which even up this 3-game series heading into the rubber match tonight for the series finale. Up and down game for Aaron Nola. Now, he pitched well enough for the Phillies to win that game. He kept them in the game. He pitched 5 innings, looked good early, had a little bit of a hiccup in the middle, and then finished kind of strong, kind of just grinded out his 5 innings of work. But you will see if you didn't watch the game or you didn't have a chance to look at the stats or anything, I'm just going to highlight why it was kind of an up and down night for Aaron Nola against the Cubs last night. Again, not really his fault they lost at all. He pitched well enough for them to win that ball game. Started off strong. He had a 9-pitch first inning, 8 strikes, just 1 ball in that first inning, and he had 2 strikeouts in that first inning. He came back with a 14-pitch second inning. He had 12 strikes, 2 balls of those 14 pitches, 2 hits allowed, 0 runs. So he was throwing a lot of strikes early. He was getting ahead of batters, and he was getting things done through those efficiently through those first 2 innings. He did run into some trouble in the 3rd inning, though. A 31-pitch 3rd inning for Aaron Nola. He allowed 5 hits and 2 runs. The Phillies luckily had a 3-2 or 3-0 lead at the time, so they still had a lead at 3-2 in that third inning. I'll get to that, why they had that lead in just a moment. So after that kind of rough third inning where the Phillies still had a lead, Aaron Nola came back with a very good fourth inning. Just 7 pitches in that fourth inning. He allowed 1 hit, and he had, 5 strikes, 2 balls, no hits. He had 7 pitches in that fourth inning, 5 strikes thrown out of those 7 pitches, 2 balls. So just like those first 2 innings, Aaron Nola was very efficient. So kind of just that outlier of a third inning. He did come out for the 5th inning. Again, kind of up and down night for Aaron Nola. Kind of a little bit more reminiscent of that third inning. Not as bad, but still 26 pitch 5th inning for Aaron Nola. He allowed just 1 hit compared to the 5 hits in the third inning, but he did allow 2 walks in that inning, and he also allowed another run, which ended up being the game tying run at the time to even up the game 3-3. Overall, he went 5 strong innings. He pitched well. He was efficient for the most part. He kept them in the game, and he was definitely not the reason why the Phillies lost that ball game. I know a lot of people like to blame Aaron Nola for a lot of these things, especially with the season he had last year. But that game last night, he was definitely not the problem. I'll get into what was more of the problem a little bit later. Also, shout out to Aaron Nola and congrats to Aaron Nola in that ball game last night with a couple of strikeouts he had. He reached 1,900 career strikeouts, 1,900 career strikeouts for Aaron Nola. Now, I'm trusting Tom McCarthy on this, and whoever came up with this number on the Phillies broadcast as I was watching, I didn't really go fact check it myself. Again, I'm trusting what I heard with my own ears from Tom McCarthy and the Phillies broadcast. With those 1,900 career strikeouts for Aaron Nola, he is now the 8th active pitcher in all of Major League Baseball to reach 1,900 career strikeouts. Again, per the Phillies broadcast and Tom McCarthy, as well as this fact and stat. Again, I'm weary on the side of saying fact, but a stat, because again, I didn't double check it, but I have all the faith in the world that they did not give us wrong information on this. So, as well as the 8th active pitcher to reach 1,900 career strikeouts, he is one of 111 pitchers in MLB history, 111 pitchers to reach 1,900 career strikeouts. That is some impressive stuff. Baseball has been around forever. Now, obviously, stats are a kind of wonky kind of category for certain things going back a long time. But there have been a lot of pitchers, a lot of starting pitchers, a lot of just anybody in Major League Baseball players. So to be in a group of 111 players to reach 1,900 career strikeouts, that is just an impressive feat by Aaron Nola. He's had a very successful career. Really, John Kruk said it on the broadcast, that's missing from Aaron Nola's career outside of a Cy Young, which I don't know if that's going to happen at this point in his career. Who knows? He's still under contract for quite a bit. But obviously searching for that World Series ring as well. And then who knows? Maybe Aaron Nola is a sneaky Hall of Famer by the end of it. Again, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but he has had a very good career for the Phillies, whether you think so or not, especially after these past couple of years, especially after last year. But he's been one of the more reliable pitchers the Phillies have ever had in franchise history and one of the better pitchers they've ever had in franchise history. So congrats and shout out to Aaron Nola for a solid game last night to keep the Phillies in it and 1,900 career strikeouts. So hopefully you get a ton more there, Knowles. I've been a big fan of you ever since you've joined the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, getting into the game itself outside of Aaron Nola, the good with the game last night, not only with Aaron Nola reaching 1,900 career strikeouts, being pretty efficient overall, keeping the Phillies in the ball game against a solid Chicago Cubs team and lineup. The good was, I said the Phillies had an early 3-0 lead when Aaron Nola allowed those 2 runs in the third. This is why Edmundo Sosa, he crushed an absolute majestic 3-run home run to center field in the second inning to give the Phillies an early 3-0 lead. Now, coming off that big offensive explosion Monday night to open up the series, the 13-7 win over the Cubs, really a blowout. A lot of those runs came at the end in garbage time. Garbage time sounds weird in baseball, but it essentially was Monday night where the Cubs made it seem a little closer than it actually was. Edmundo Sosa looked like they were carrying momentum over into last night's ballgame with that early 3-run home run by Sosa, but ultimately, that was not the case. I'll get into that in just a moment as well. Also, some good things. But in that very next inning, defensively for the Phillies, Adolis Garcia continues to impress. I know he's made a couple of mistakes or miscues so far on the early parts of the season in right field, but we all know he's a Gold Glove caliber. He's an elite caliber defender. He's won a Gold Glove in his career, and he showed flashes of his defense so far early as well in this season for the Phillies, including last night in the third inning. He had a strong laser type of throw from right field on a base hit. Now, There was a runner on first, so single into right field. Runner was trying to go first to third. Adolis Garcia, perfect laser throw to third base. Edmundo Sosa at third base. He didn't have, it was perfect. Right into his glove, right into the tag. Got him out of third base. Awesome throw by Adolis Garcia, showing that awesome arm strength and elite defense. That is a couple of nice throws he's had in the outfield. 2 that I remember specifically for an outfield assist so far in the earlier parts of this season. So great stuff by Adolis Garcia. And that was in that third inning where Aaron Nola allowed those 2 runs, had that 31 pitch inning. And that inning could have been a lot worse because that was kind of early in the inning. So he was safe at third. The Cubs could have scored more runs. They could have tied it up earlier than they did. I know they ended up tying it up in the 5th inning, but they could have tied it up earlier. And that third inning could have got completely away from Aaron Nola. He could have even got pulled in that inning because of how many pitches he was throwing. If that out did not occur, and the Phillies could have just dug deep into their bullpen, which would not have been a good thing going into tonight's ball game. So great stuff by Adolis Garcia, showing that awesome cannon of an arm out there in right field. Now into the bad of last night's ball game. A lot of the bad that we've all been accustomed to so far through this early parts of the Phillies season. First, though, defensively, pitching-wise, the Phillies in the 6th inning, Tim Meza was in there in relief of Aaron Nola after Aaron Nola went those 5 innings. Tim Meza was in there. The Cubs had first and second with 1 out in the top of the 6th inning. There was a comebacker ground ball to Tim Meza at the pitcher's mound. He threw it to second. Now the ball wasn't the best throw. Still probably should have been caught by Bryson Stott for at least an out at second, if not a inning-ending double play in the 6th inning. But it was not. It was a little bit low, kind of to the, when you're watching it, to the right of Bryson Stott, but I guess to his left if you're facing that way. But anyway, not the best throw to second base. Still should have been caught for at least an out at second. But it was off of Stott's glove. Now the runner did not go from third to home there. He stayed at third. So it ultimately ended up being everybody safe. Bases loaded. Still just 1 out. Now, again, it was a potential inning-ending double play. At least would have been 2 outs there with that out at second base, if not an inning-ending double play. But then that next batter that came up, of course, for just how the season has been going, you couldn't really just draw it up any differently. Go ahead, 2-run single. The very next batter gave the Cubs a 5-3 lead over the Phillies. 2 more runs ended up scoring in that 6th inning as well. So the Cubs kind of broke that game open in the 6th inning. Kind of got a way unraveled for the Phillies in that 6th inning. Cubs took a 7-3 lead out of that top of the 6th inning, going into the bottom of the 6th for the Phillies. And then, of course, just like pretty much the whole season has been, the Phillies offense just quiet after that Edmundo Sosa 3-run, majestic, absolute blast of a home run in the 2nd inning. Very quiet. They did end up scoring 1 more run later in the ballgame. They did end up actually having a chance to make things interesting. In the 8th inning, they had first and second with 1 out, down by 3 runs. It was 7-4 because they did end up scoring 1 run there as well. They had 3 before that. So first and second, 1 out. You had your guy up. You had Bryce Harper up in a good situation. He ended up striking out, so that was 2 outs still with runners on first and second. Adolis Garcia coming up. Now there was a wild pitch, so runners advanced for the Phillies, second and third. 2 outs, still down by 3 runs, 7-4 ball game. Adolis Garcia walked, and then Alec Boehm, who was not in the starting lineup, came up to pinch hit with bases loaded, 2 outs, down by 3 runs. He was the go-ahead run at the plate if he hit a grand slam, or at least if he hit one into the gap or the outfield, could have at least scored 2 runs, if not all 3, or at the very least 1 run to make that thing interesting and keep things going there in the 8th inning. Ultimately, Alec Boehm pinch hit, but he struck out to end that inning and pretty much ended the Phillies' night, you could say, because then Tanner Banks, he was in there for the 9th inning again. One of the better relievers for the Phillies in the bullpen, but just not his night last night against the Cubs like a lot of these guys on the Phillies. So Tanner Banks ended up not having his best inning. He allowed a 3-run home run in the top of the 9th inning. Cubs took a 10-4 lead, and then ultimately that was the final score. Phillies couldn't get anything done or push any runs across the plate in their half of the 9th inning. Lost that ball game 10-4 to the Cubs last night on Tuesday night. Series even, 1 game apiece. Heading into tonight's rubber match, Jesus Luzardo versus Shota Imanaga for the series here against the Cubs. Again, they're off tomorrow. That game is 6:40 though tonight, Citizen Bank Park. Tune in, watch it. Now, something else of note that happened yesterday. The Phillies made a trade, nothing major, but still something to talk about here as we end today's video. The Phillies made a trade with the reigning back-to-back and defending back-to-back World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. The Phillies traded 26-year-old right-handed pitcher Griff McGarry to the Dodgers for international bonus pool space and a player to be named later, or cash consideration. So the full terms of the trade not yet fully known, but that's pretty much the haul the Phillies got back for 26-year-old right-hander Griff McGarry. You may remember that name because he was a 5th-round pick back in 2021, I believe. He's had a lot of potential in the Phillies farm system, just was never able to put it all together and reach the major leagues with the Phillies. He was their former number 3 prospect in their farm system back in 2023 per MLB Pipeline. So again, at one point had very high expectations for Griff McGarry. Just again, couldn't put it all together and couldn't reach the major leagues with the Phillies. He actually was left unprotected for this past year's Rule 5 draft, selected by the Washington Nationals. So he was with the Nationals during spring training. Now in the Rule 5 draft, you either have to make the opening day or make the Major League 26-man roster, or you're offered back to the team that you selected them from, and then if they don't want you back or whatever it is, then you're just sent to that team that you got selected from, minor leagues farm system, or you might be put to waiver. I don't know. Regardless, the Nationals sent him back to the Phillies. He went back to AAA Lehigh Valley, Griff McGarry, to start the 2026 season. Not so good of a 2026 season in the early parts for McGarry there in AAA. He had a 9.00 ERA with the Iron Pigs, had allowed 7 walks, 1 hit by pitch, just 4 strikeouts in 5 appearances, 4 innings of work for Griff McGarry at AAA with the Iron Pigs. And then ultimately traded to the Dodgers yesterday for international bonus pool space and a player to be named later or cash considerations, Griff McGarry, again, after having a lot of potential, 4.21 career ERA in the minor leagues with the Philadelphia Phillies since being drafted, through across 100 across 108 appearances in the minor league system with the Phillies, including 61 starts. In AAA with the Iron Pigs, obviously the highest level in the minor leagues with the Phillies in their farm system, had a 8.48 career ERA in AAA with the Iron Pigs across 45 appearances, including 4 starts. So again, that potential just never fully reached for Griff McGarry, and now he's no longer in the Phillies farm system. He is with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. I'm your host, Mike Kennelly. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily. I'm sorry for another long video. One day I'm going to learn how not to ramble so much and just get this done efficiently. But again, make sure you guys are tuning into the channel every single day. It's much appreciated. Make sure you guys check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Leave us some reviews there. Would be much appreciated. You guys are the best. 6:40 p.m. first pitch here tonight for the rubber match. Jesus Luzardo on the mound for the Phillies, going for a series win. Hopefully they do so. Off tomorrow before starting another home game or home series against the division rival Atlanta Braves on Friday for the weekend. Hope you guys enjoy this episode of Phillies Daily. Sorry for all the fumbling of words here, but as always, go Phils.